I'd like to just introduce myself and welcome you all. I'm Shazia Ijaz. Some of you know me as Shaz. I'm the Campaigns and Insights Director at the Recruitment and Employment Confederation. We're the UK Federation. Really pleased to be chairing this discussion today. Welcome to another of these Insiders Insights webinars that WEC are hosting. Want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules. We know that it's been a tough year and everybody is working hard. But it occurs that we are already in October, and whenever I get into October, I think I almost miss out the rest of the month and skip through to December. That's where my brain goes, because the last few months of the year always seem to fly by. So it seems like this is a good time to take stock of what the year has been like for our industry, what opportunities we have seen. We know we have seen challenges. We'll look at that too, and we'll have a perspective on the different geographies. And hopefully that will leave us in a position where we feel like we're a bit more set up to start looking forward and making our plans for 2025. Just a note as well that this webinar is being recorded. So, if you don't catch everything, as long as you've registered, you will also be sent a link and you can access it that way as well. So the structure for today, we have a really fantastic panel to address some of the issues on economic outlook and labor markets. And we're going to try and get through as much as we can in the next hour or so. We are joined by Martin Meyer, who is Group VP Insights and Strategy at the Adecco Group. We have Daniele Melorati. He's the Chief Regional Officer APAC, Baltics and Benelux at the GI Group. And at some point, shortly, we will also be joined by Dominique Hermans, who is a member of Randstad's executive leadership team, and she's responsible for their strategy transformation. She will join us soon. To start with, they're each going to give us a sense of what they're seeing in their markets, and then we'll jump into a discussion. In the meantime, if there are any questions that you want to put to us, feel free to put them into the chat, and if we have time, we will definitely come to those. Martin, actually, no, sorry, we're going to start with Victoria. Victoria, as many of you will know, is the Labour Market Intelligence Manager at WEC, and she's going to start actually by giving us that really important overview of the global economic outlook and the health of the agency market. Over to you first, Victoria.
Well, Shazia, thank you so much for kicking off this edition of WEConversations. I'm very happy to be in such a great crowd. I will not take a lot of your time. All I want to do is to basically give you a very quick overview of what's been happening in the economic and the labor market context in the last few months and maybe a couple of years. Let's have a look. Well, to first kind of group the economic indicators together, we've got GDP growth, which has been really challenged in many countries. We've got unemployment rate, which is sort of stabilizing, but it's entangled with other indicators, which make it more complicated than just a simple positive development. We've got labor market tightness, as we've seen with an incredible high level of job scarcity, so unfilled job positions that is now receding. So it's easing, it's becoming more fluid. And then we've got also inflation that is now finally converging to the central bank's targets. But then all the while thinking that government debt is still quite high. And so that makes it quite a complex and mixed picture. And then in that context, we also see our industry, so private employment agency industry, which is struggling. Really, when we look at the agency work activity, it's been in the red for a couple of years now, 18 months for sure. And we see also the number of online job postings, which is a supplementary indicator that we can look at, which is in decline. I have more slides to show you, but let's just quickly run through them. So in this slide, you will see the countries highlighted with green marker are the ones that are still growing at a healthy rate, but you see that they're in a minority. And actually, most countries are in either modest growth or in negative in the first few quarters of this year, which is, of course, a sign of malaise, shall I put it. And we see that OECD is also talking about more positive developments in some countries and difficulties in some others. So it's a widely admitted fact. We've got, as I said, unemployment stabilizing, and also in next year we see OECD is forecasting very similar levels of unemployment compared to this year. And we've got vacancy rate, as I mentioned. If you look at the chart, the purple dot is the peak of 2022. And then the red, let's say, star, and consistently across many countries in Europe, but also outside Europe, are going down, except maybe Norway, which is a bit of a special case. We can discuss that separately if we have time. So you see that there has been easing across the board, which is good news, of course, for the labor market and the economy as a whole. Now, to look at the agency work activity, if you look on the left, you have the individual European countries for which we have data depicted, and then European countries grouped into one indicator on the right-hand side chart in the green. And you see that, so contrasted with US, Japan, and Chile, and you see that it's been a tough couple of years. There have been many different obstacles to that. And of course, we are going through a period of transformation at the level of labor markets, economy, and so on. I'm not going to dwell further because I want to leave space for our panelists to expand on that. I think it's going to be an exciting discussion. I'll just add one more thing about the number of online job postings, which is a figure that encompasses not only a few select countries, but actually basically most countries of the world. And you see that in Q2, and that continues until the end of summer, online job postings are in decline, and quite significantly in some geographies than in others. And the crunch in the demand for labor is quite different. If you look at the right-hand side chart, you'll see that North America is really struggling with the healthcare sector. So registered nurse is really like consistent for many, many months and quarters. It's always the same job description that is being sought after for such a long time. And it's a persistent, really scarcity in the North American market. You've got more IT sector orientation in Asia and Africa, and more blue-collar workers in Europe and Oceania. So it's quite different depending on the region. So covering that would also be quite an interesting ride if we have time. I think I'm going to stop here and let the discussion evolve from now on. Shazia, you're on mute.
Thank you so much. I did that thing that we all do, even though we should have learned not to do it by now, and I started speaking without unmuting. Thank you. That was so helpful. It feels like there's so much going on at the moment. There's so much that the industry is dealing with. So with that in mind, I will ask Martin to give us a bit of an overview of what he's seeing over at the Adecco Group.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Shazia, and maybe a few words about myself. I'm Martin, based in Zurich in the global headquarters of the Adecco Group. I'm with the organization since a bit over 18 years. And as you might know, the Adecco Group is comprised of 3 GBUs, Adecco, LHH, and Akkodis, our tech consulting business. And in my current role, I'm in a small team under the global CEO where I look after group strategy and insights. And especially in the insights arm, I look after market trends, competitor analysis, innovation trends. And I just want to share a couple of thoughts and insights which we see in the marketplace. And I actually want to start with a concrete example. with a concrete country, the US, and a concrete service offering, which is temporary staffing. And I'd like to show you a very fancy chart. And what you basically see here is, can you see the right? Yeah, more or less. 1 second. Yeah, what you basically see here, it's mirroring, is on the gray line, that's the total number of employees, non-farm employees in the US, and the blue line are the total number of temporary workers in the US. And what you see, over the last 30 years, both lines went kind of in the same direction, either up or down or like flat. And only in the last 2 years, which you see here now, the total number of employees, of non-farm employees, went up, and the temp labor, so the temporary workers, went down since 2022. So the temp penetration rate is going down. And I'd like to use this example to share a couple of thoughts and insights and try to explain that a little bit. And maybe Daniele, later you can complement and talk to that as well. So a key driver for that is a high level of uncertainty, which we see in the marketplace, a high level of anxiety at our clients. So there is like a lower demand for temporary staffing, and especially in industries which use temp staffing quite a lot, like manufacturing, logistic, automotive. And there's just a lower demand due to the overall uncertainty which is going on in the country, in the marketplace. There is not only uncertainty with clients, but also with employees and candidates. So I spoke with an analyst earlier this week from LinkedIn, who basically confirmed that the confidence level, I don't know exactly how they measure that, to be honest, but the confidence level of candidates is low. What we also see is that the quit rate, so the quit rate is going down, and basically employees hold on to their roles, right? They are not exploring a lot, and it leads to a bit of a static environment due to the overall uncertainty. Okay, so these behaviors, I believe, are more cyclical, though, right? At some point they will change again. We don't know exactly when or what would be the catalyst for that. Maybe it's the election, maybe there are other events happening, but at some point, since this is cyclical, it will align and change again. There are more structural changes going on in the marketplace, which are related to the overall labor shortage. Right? That's nothing new to all of us here. But if I stick to the example in the US, the labor shortage, these ultra tight labor markets, this is accelerated at the moment. And a few drivers for that is the retirement of baby boomers, right? A huge part of the working population. And not only they retire, they also retire earlier, because typically they were in two-income households, they build up some savings, they can now afford to retire a little bit earlier and miss earlier than expected in the labor market. Also, their children, not in every family, but in a significant number of cases, their children benefit from that situation, from that savings, right? And they enter the labor force, the workforce, at a later stage, right? They get married a little bit later. So these are all like all little indicators and parameters. But if you add all that up, right, that leads to an accelerated, increase of shortage. There are much more examples I can share, like the drug addiction of prime age men is super high, and they are missed in the workforce. So many parameters there, which are in parts very, very interesting to dive into. Another data point I want to share on the example for the US is that there's a shift in the labor market going on with like new occupations. So in the US, we have around 2 million people, mainly young people, generating a 6-figure income through their social media activities. So they are influencer on Instagram and so on, and they miss, they are missing in the workplace. Immigration is at a low. Then we see a big mismatch of like existing skills becoming obsolete, not that relevant anymore. But on the other side, new skills in demand, which we currently cannot meet. So a couple of drivers accelerating the labor shortage. And how does that impact these curves, right? How do companies react to that? And what we see is that in certain industries, companies hold on to their workforce. There is this terminology, labor hoarding, which you probably all heard as well. So they keep them, and that's basically due to the learning companies did during the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, a lot of companies laid off workers. When it then picked up again, they really struggled to find the employees, the workers, and based on that learning, currently a lot of companies keep the employees because they would struggle otherwise again. And the overall talent shortage or labor shortage also gives candidates more options, right? It gives them more bargaining power. They know what they are worth, right? And they can negotiate the salaries, which then from a temp staffing point of view led to like higher bill rates. So this curve also a little bit due to the fact that temp labor is becoming more expensive than it used to be in the past. And coming back to the options of candidates in this uncertain situation, if they have a choice, they then often opt into like a permanent role, right? Rather than entering temp staffing. So uncertainty, labor shortage, and I want to touch on a third bucket of reasons, if you like, and these are alternatives to staffing. And I'll be quick, Shazia, I see that you, I'll be quick. So alternatives to staffing. And this, on the one hand, you could see as like, threats to our industry, to our business, but at the same time, and I believe Daniele may agree, that are opportunities for us. And I give you 2-3 examples. So these alternatives is a growing gig economy, a growing number of freelancers, which are missing as, candidate pools as in temporary staffing, and a growing number of talent platforms, freelancer platforms, also accelerated through, AI technology. And these platforms make it easier for freelancers to engage with clients and vice versa. Okay, so that is also partially is impacting this curve. Another trend we see is that work, especially in IT and engineering, which used to be done in like a temporary work agreement, is now shifting to SOW, so statement of work agreement. So client more and more give that to IT and engineering service provider in a work package, right? Rather than in temp labor. That's good for our Akkodis consulting business, right? But impacting the staffing business. And it's also important to understand how then these workers are calculated. They are not calculated as a temporary worker, but they account now as part of the total employment because they are, full-time worker in professional services. So there's also some shift happening. So uncertainty, labor shortage, alternatives, leading to this unusual picture at the moment. I mentioned that there are opportunities in there for our industry, for the Adecco group, for peers, right? That we have the opportunity to create, develop new talent pools through, skilling activities, which we have already across the 3 GPUs, but also further focus on and invest in. We can or should support and have to support the labor participation rate of females, women. immigrants, refugees. I'm at my last sentence, Shazia.
Okay, okay. You were coming on to opportunities, and I'm really keen that we dive into that in detail. So I'll do finish
Okay,
up.
perfect.
Come back.
Okay, perfect. So closing off now, and by saying that overall, touching on the opportunities quickly, the market is massive, right? And all, like, we are still in like a range of like 600 billion for temp and perm only. And besides, it went down the last 2 years from a very, very high level, right? We are still in a very, very large market active. And with that, I pause and hand over to Daniele, or you, Shazia, and please take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much, Martin. I mean, you know, you've touched the surface of so many important issues that I think will be familiar to many of us. So we'll come back to some of those, and as I said, very keen to look at some of the sort of opportunities as well for us as an industry. Yes, thank you. And Daniela, please, over to you for your perspective.
Thank you. Just to shortly say that I also am working in G Group Holding for 17 years, and in my role, I have the luck to have worked in 18 different countries. So I've seen many small bits of what's happening in what happened in the years and what's happening in this moment. I have an office in Milano in theory, but I take 150 flights per year and spend 200 days per year traveling. So my let's say my speech will be more broad regarding a general situation. In this moment, I'm in India, one of the few countries in green that I saw in the beginning. So I will try to give also an overview that is cross-country. I appreciated very much the ideas of Martin from the US, because this is one of the markets where I'm not an expert. J Group Holding is not present there with staffing, so it was very interesting. I will start from a new original topic that is uncertainty. So I agree with Martin that this is becoming an issue coming from the clients. So this is a meeting between agencies and peers, so I will blame the clients. So I want to be a little bit provocative. This indecision and uncertainty from the clients due to the volatility of the economic situation is creating probably the biggest challenges in our industries. And under a more operational point of view, let's say, compared to the strategic high-level view of Martin, is creating to us challenges also in the everyday operation. Because these economic up and down are forcing the majority of our clients to make short-term plans or any way to limit the investments. Even the governments of the countries are in doubt about decisions, and every day they change their mind. Look, for example, the debate that we are having in Italy regarding the extra profit tax for the banks. One day they announce this tax and the banks public listed go down. The day after they cancel it, and then the stock exchange goes up. So this is creating a roller coaster effect that is not, of course, what we want. This uncertainty is exposing also us to ups and downs. For example, every day we have clients that are asking you a lot of people, and then after 1 week they are telling you that they are instead planning to lay off, hiring freeze, cancellation of orders, budget revision. Or then they tell you that this year, I'm sorry, we have no budget, and then they call you and they give you the biggest order that they ever given to you. This creates frustration in the teams, operational and organizational problems, and we have people with budgets in our organization who see literally their business disappear. There are also companies with clear plans and stable business, but in this sense, I think that we should really try to educate the market. We need to be really open and transparent with the clients, sharing these difficulties, and even protect ourselves in terms, for example, of contractual clauses that before we were not used to impose to our clients, but that now we are forced sometimes to apply like cancellation fees or this kind of things. So again, as a consequence, because of this volatility, our operations needs to be flexible. We need to try to look the structuring of our teams probably from a different point of view. In the good old times, we could plan the seasonality of our business, and we can plan the resource accordingly. Today, this volatility reflects on the structure of our teams. It's better to have a lean structure being safe from downturns, but with the risk of losing opportunity when the business grows, or it's better to keep a safe sizing, accepting to take some loss when the business decreases. There are pros and cons, of course, for both the setup, but the scalability concept for sure has changed, and we need to cope with that. The use of freelancer is increasing, not only as an opportunity for the business, as mentioned by Martin, and I agree very much on the fact that this market is growing and the clients are more interested in a more complete value proposition, including other potential contractual solutions. But even for ourselves, freelancers, sometimes even agency workers, it's a paradox because we are agency worker suppliers, and we may use the agency workers for our internal positions sometimes. The price to pay probably is a less engagement by the internal people, and this is a risk. Also, one trend that I see growing is the increase in the demand of MSP solution from the big clients, with a broader pipeline for talents. The big companies are able to manage these ups and downs in a more flexible way through many different suppliers. Probably there are also other solutions possible, like offshoring or centralization, because thanks to technology, we can streamline and centralize certain process. But I think that the perfect solution to this uncertainty is still to be invented, let's say. On a more broader point of view and less operational, there are changes in many paradigms. Some of them have been already mentioned by Martin regarding the habit in changing jobs, or the habit of the people retiring earlier, or also the habit of these children of these people. But there are also other, dilemmas probably, big part of our strategic decisions are also about understanding where is the next big thing. I feel that in this period, there is a lot of talking, a lot of buzzword, for example, around the technology and artificial intelligence. But in the end, still, there is a lot of uncertainty and conservative prudence. Is it a bubble like metaverse? Is really the next big thing? We will see. The dilemma, for example, between accelerating the transition to electric, to green, destroying all the economy jobs, or being more prudent in this change, is keeping car manufacturers in a limbo regarding the future investments and also in the staff. And we know that automotive is one of the sectors that is suffering more. We are waiting and depending on the lawmakers' decisions, But the last European Union elections also didn't give a clear signal in one sense or another. What instead is already here and already mentioned by Martin is a huge skill gap. I focused more on this skill gap between the market and the students coming out from the schools. The school system in many countries is obsolete, probably, and not responding to the need, to the current needs of our clients. We need to think seriously about upskilling and reskilling, because even if the school system would change tomorrow, it will take a generation to see the effects in the market. And another important point is the one partially mentioned by Martin, is the different way of the young generation to look for a job. My generation, I'm 48, was looking for stable jobs, for safe salaries, safe big companies, and so on. Now, this young generation wants to work 6 months per year, enjoying the rest of the year traveling, learning new things. Salary is less important compared to values and training possibilities. And life work, not work-life balance, because life comes first now, is a priority. I would not be surprised if in the future night shifts and weekend jobs will be very difficult to be filled. We must understand these to be able to grow and thrive. So these are the challenges that I see currently, and I hope they are short term. Then we have maybe time to discuss also the future trends regarding the market. But this is what I see currently now as a challenge for our organizations.
Thank you so much, Daniele. Dominique, thank you so much and welcome. So if you could give us a few minutes on your sort of overarching perspective of the industry at the moment, and any thoughts on that, and then we'll come into asking you guys some questions and continue to touch on some of the points that have already been mentioned.
I would love to do that, Shazia. So I'm Dominique Hermans from Randstad. I already heard from Daniele and Martin about their experiences, and luckily, I think in our work or our world of work, lots of people are staying for a long time, so that we can also discover how things are evolving and changing. I'm already in the industry for 23 years now, so also one of those people that can appreciate what was going on, but also can appreciate how things are changing and evolving, and make the best of that combination, I would say. And if you ask me the perspective on the market, lots of things have been said, so I will not repeat on uncertainty, I will not repeat on skills gaps, etc., but maybe give a reflection of maybe one of the solutions that can come up. And Daniele, you said, we were curious about what the next big thing would look like. And I would say, if we look at the world of work, then I would suggest to do that in a different way than we did before. And I'm coming from the angle that in many of the industries and sectors at the moment, where our clients also sit and our talents want to work, sustainability and circularity, being a circular economy is one of the important things, but not yet in the world of work. So if there is one specific area where we are not thinking like that, then it's in our world. So we get a talent in a company, talent is working for us, and we already know that in a certain moment in time, the talent will leave the company too. And instead of thinking of that very circular and sustainable, we put those people back on the street. And forget the expression after this session, I would say, because it's not a nice expression, but that's how we talk about this. We dismiss people still very often. And if you listen to all the stories that have been told already, and that you probably also know, then there is scarcity, there is a mismatch in skills. So it is a bit stupid that in a world of work, in what we do together, we are still dismiss people, make people for a while unemployed. So I would say a more circular approach to the labor market would definitely be one of those next big things, which can truly change the way we look at the world of work, at the labor market as such. Why is it not happening today? I think that the way we have organized in many markets, most of the labor laws, for example, is really something of a previous century. In still many cases, the contract form is, really important, and it's the most important dedicating factors of how long someone can stay, what the different options are, how people are treated, etc. If I heard Daniela saying something about freelance, it is totally true, but if the power of how talent wants to participate in this labor market, if the power becomes more and more with the talent, it's also logic that the talent can choose whether this is a temp contract or a freelance contract or a fixed contract, something for a while, for a longer time, maybe 2 jobs in one go, whatever the combination would look like. So the labor laws as such are not supporting this kind of transition model very easily. So I would say that's something to be worked on, because if you would look like how a circular economy appears, it's literally that we try together with many actors on the market. So it's definitely agencies, it's also government, it's also educational institutes, it's of course also the companies in a certain region or area. If we could work together and make sure that people should not become unemployed anymore, that dismissal is a thing of the past, we can create skill sets that fits immediately the skills you need for the next job you will take, or the next task or project you will take. That's circularity. That's something I think that together with, again, many more actors on the labor market should work on. And I think that will also definitely boost productivity of in the labor market. Unemployment is immediately unproductive. So if we can do that, we will have many more people that can also cooperate, that will have a job, that will continue to add value to the society and to the economy. So I would say to make that happen, skilling, social protection, work, and also transition policies, not going for only fixed, not going for only temp, but just transition policies, I think are key ingredients for a new reality in a way. So let's leave it with that.
Thank you so much, all of you. It just, from all of the different things you've all touched on about the industry, about sort of structural changes, it's just a reminder about how much we're all sort of facing in our businesses and in our roles at the moment, and how much there is to keep up with. So let's hope that the conversation going forward expands on some of this a little bit more. Just to start, Daniele, we've all acknowledged that it's been a tough market globally for the industry. Are we seeing any signs of that changing? If so, what are they? I think we'd all like to know. Or is it that we're seeing a changing picture depending on sectors? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that there are some good news. For example, my opinion is very much similar to the opinion of Barry Hazin, one of the people working as staffing industry analyst, the magazine of our sector. In his last editorial, he mentioned a couple of interesting points that I really reflected on. One thing is that the paradox is that also not only staffing, but also job boards, freelance platform, perm placement went down in this period. So it's not related specifically to staffing, but it's probably more related to the general situation that we mentioned before. And I agree also with this. I agree with this view because, as I said, it's more related to the behavior probably of the clients of the companies around. Another positive indicator, in my opinion, is that looking at the surveys that sometimes I read coming from different sources regarding the intentions of the purchasing managers regarding the contingent workforce, there is still a big appetite for this kind of service. So the workforce need, the contingent workforce need survey that I read coming again from staffing industry says that in the next decade there will be an increase in the need of contingent workforce from 26 to 22%. So the buyers are saying that they will continue to buy temporary staffing. Also, some other reports like the Bullhorn Staffing Indicator reports some positive data in this sense. Regarding the sectors, as I said, probably automotive is one of the sectors that are more impacted by this uncertainty, not only economic but also politically. Sadly, I need to say that one of the sectors that is growing more is military defense and all the connected industry related to the production of defensive equipment, because every government is increasing the spend for the military, considering the current geopolitical situation. When instead, on a more positive side, I think that the pharma healthcare is going well, because apart from the spike of the COVID period, the population is aging, so there is a growing need for healthcare, self-care, medicine, cosmetics. So these sectors, I think, are very promising. Regarding IT, that traditionally it was booming everywhere as a bubble, it exploded recently, especially in certain countries like India. But I think that cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, of course, will be interesting places to be. So I'm optimistic.
So you're optimistic, which is obviously good and what we all want to hear. A question for all of you. Maybe we'll start with you, Dominique. What has helped your business sort of navigate during this period where we've heard from Daniela as well? There's lots of reasons why there've been uncertainty, economic, all sorts. How have you prepared for when the market starts to pick up? Quick responses, sort of 30 seconds to a minute each. Dominique, come to you first.
Yeah, let's kick it off. I think it's obvious that if there is uncertainty, there is not all over the place only negative news. Huh? So that's the uncertainty. So you have to look to those growth pieces, those growth segments that still exist. So, like I think many of us, we based ourselves on data. We have very specific growth segments in each of the different countries, in each of the different regions in the world. That differs, of course, very much, but being then very specific on those growth segments and put the energy and the focus on those, it's literally helping us, because there is always something to serve for, whether it is the talent perspective or whether this is the client perspective, so on both sides. So this is really important. And when we have uncertainty or scarcity of things that does not match immediately, things like already been said, skilling, etc., also helps, of course, to prepare the workforce of the next coming weeks, months, or quarters to come. So it's data that helps us to focus on the right things, and then actions like already skill people, train people, make people ready to work, so that we are, absolutely already focusing on the right things. And if the growth comes all over the place and uncertainty disappears, that we're ready for the bigger uptick again.
Thank you. I think that point about sort of making sure that you are training and skilling people up, it's also important that they feel that you're maintaining that investment and that they feel motivated, and that's going to help with that. Martin, coping strategies.
Yeah, coping strategies, what helped us. I mean, I think like a balanced portfolio, right, which goes a bit in that direction, like Dominique just said, that we have a service offering, right, which compensates some of the struggling elements, like our placement service. We have a growing coaching business, the skilling, it's becoming these days, or it is these days crucial, the tech consulting. So this balanced portfolio is helping. So mix in geographies, right? Because depending on the country, and there we leverage a lot of data as well, right? Because we need to break down the average of GDP growth in which industry per country. So be very specific and focused, and then have this agility to then quickly shift in towards growth pockets, right? Whether it's like a renewable energy market in Germany, or like shift that rather quickly. And what also helped us, I think, from a cultural point of view, right? We won some business as well the the last 2 years, right? There are good cases, good success stories, collaboration with clients. So there are both, you know, like losing some business, but also winning some business. And what I think is that this rather challenging times are often good times to win some market share, right? Overall, and I'm a big sports fan, and always like a quote from Ayrton Senna comes to my mind where he said, you know, Ayrton Senna is like a Formula One driver, where he said that you cannot overtake 10 cars in sunny weather, but when it's raining. So this kind of mindset, right, to be really on the opportunities, really helped us to cope with some shortfalls, some downturns, and really, you know, celebrate some successes as well, and focus. Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, Daniela, I might come to you with a slightly different question. And you touched upon this earlier on in terms of the different things you talked about, greening economies and things like that. Obviously, AI is on the tip of everyone's tongues. It's something we're all thinking about using or already using. What are we seeing, or what are you seeing at the moment in terms of the impact of AI on the industry?
Well, it's funny that this question came to me because probably I'm the more skeptical in the panel, as it often happens when I participate to events like this. I think that at the current stage, what we call artificial intelligence is not really an artificial intelligence, but more a super search engine or a super optimizator of low added value activities. In this view, I believe that artificial intelligence can help us to streamline the processes of some activities like sourcing or digital sales, but for sure not yet substitute completely the human touch in assessing, evaluating, recruiting, managing the people, managing pool of candidates, especially if we think at what Dominic said before now regarding the circularity. The people to be engaged up to now, at least until, I don't know for how many years, but they prefer to be in contact with humans rather than with chatbots. I don't know your experience with chatbots, but I really hate when in some customer service I have to interact with a chatbot rather than with a person. So we have seen also after COVID that the humans are social animals. So the relationship between the clients and the candidates and the agency staff is still important and valued. I believe it will remain like this until the next breakthrough, and I hope to retire before. So let's see. But for now, I see that, for example, there have been famous cases also of bias in matching candidates with the needs because of the fact that artificial intelligence is not yet educated enough. Probably in these 2 minutes while I was speaking, artificial intelligence learned so many data that is already improved, no? But I think it will take still some time. I remember in a panel several years ago, we were talking about electric cars, and the people at the table were saying that probably in 2 years we would be all electric and so on. We're still discussing, and nobody likes electric cars, judging from the data of the market. So let's see. But I must admit that I am, generally speaking, quite techno-skeptical. For sure, it improved a lot the life of recruiters and salespeople.
So from a sort of a techno-skeptic, Dominique, Martin, very quickly, do you have any kind of alternative views on that in terms or success stories you want to share about sort of expanding use across your businesses, or anything you want to add to that quickly?
Yeah, I would love to, because I agree with some things, but not with all, because I believe that AI literally is not just a let's say a sort of the same but more or a bit more intelligent. I think it can really bring something different. So I believe it can augment our human way of working to a great extent. So we have use cases now where literally the volume part of sourcing, for example, is prepared by a AI bot, voice or text or whatever, which is already to a very good quality, where people actually love the fact that it is very punctual and that it goes fast and very concrete at any moment of the day. And then the last part is our own consultant that do the touch, which can be then more real human questions and not questions about things that the bot then already sorted out and is already filed in our system because it's necessary from a more administrative point of view. And you can have a real human conversation because you have time to do that. And so I think that actually our life and our jobs will be much more interesting and more beautiful and more human because of AI. That's at least how I look at it. And I'm not, or we as a company are, of course, also not blind for the pitfalls. So you need a very strong set of recommendations and behaviors and do's and don'ts, of course, because things like bias, etc. Yeah, that should absolutely be uh, off the table. You should do it very consciously. That's of course also a fact, but it's a beautiful, innovative way of doing our work better and brighter, I would say.
I think there's a line where you both cross in your opinion, and that is that there's definitely potential with AI, but ultimately, for it to be successful, we need to maintain the human oversight. So, as we talk about it in one of our reports in the UK, it's tech-enabled humanity. So it's making sure recruiters still have time to provide that human touch, and hopefully more time if AI is doing some of the other stuff for them. Dominic, let's stick with you for a minute and slightly changing tack. So much going on in the world at the moment. Daniele talked about what impact that's having on certain sectors coming up as well. What do you think the European labour market's ability is to absorb more workers from southern countries, now or in the near future?
Yeah, it's a nice question. It relates also to the mobility on the labor market, which I earlier also said we really need it. And if you look at the European member states, that we for sure know that demand will increase still, and it will definitely increase until, let's say, 2050 or something around that. That's what data says actually. And in some of the industries, like for example healthcare, construction, IT, transport, logistics, etc., we really need people to be mobile and to cross borders to get into those countries where there is a shortage, and especially from countries where, let's say, local employment is or the opportunities on the local labor market are very low, or there are hardly any. So I would say that there is a big chance that we need more of those mobility across the borders than we do even today. But I will also say that a big focus point for that is, of course, to organize this in a well-regulated, and let's say also good fashion, adequate housing policies, etc. So we should not just do it for the benefit of the economy, but it should also be in the benefit of the worker and the migrant itself, with highly regulated policies, good housing, etc. And my opinion is that our industry can really showcase how our added value in that process could look like, how we can contribute to be respectful for human rights in all the things that comes around work, let's say, and not only the work. And if I'm talking about migration, I definitely also want to say that it is, of course, only one part of the puzzle. So it's definitely not the only part where we can address talent scarcity or skills mismatch. There is for sure also, like we already said, skilling, but also looking at untapped potential, the use of technology, which we just talked about. So I think that all of this is necessary, and it's one of the pieces of the puzzle, but it will be definitely one of the things we need to also showcase as an industry and make sure that policies are, again, well regulated and provide for good, decent, and respectful human rights, I would say. You're on mute, Shazia.
Sorry, I muted because we had a fire alarm. This is becoming quite comedic on my end. Thank you, Dominique. Martin, just to come to you, we touched again there on sort of labour shortages, and you touched upon it earlier on. Any thoughts sort of going forward about even how we use that as an opportunity to our advantage? How, you know, there was the Ayrton Senna sort of example earlier. Is there anything we can actually benefit from with the state of that tightness of the labour market?
Yeah, on the skills shortage, I think that our industry plays a key role, has to play a key role, right? I think there is no other industry out there which can serve better as like an integration service provider, transformation service provider, and our key role is to evolve, to think ahead how we source, skill, deploy, redeploy talents, and the skilling component is always a crucial part of that, right? We need to rethink how we set up even more in a proactive way, right? Leveraging a tight client relationship about their future needs, align with them, what talents do they need down the road, right? And start leveraging our structure, our skilling capabilities to prepare that, whether it's leveraging immigrants, whether it's leveraging, you know, other pools, and add this skilling part to it. And I think there we play a key role to fill unmet demand. And maybe another example is that with all this AI conversation, Gen AI impact, which is of course important, don't get me wrong, and I'm fully for it, and you know, more or less aligned with what Dominique said, right? It's beautiful, right? We can leverage a lot. But we should also not forget this massive unmet demand for physical and manual skills, right? This shortage is growing even faster than in the white collar space. And there we basically have a huge opportunity as our, you know, these are the key target groups for us as a company, the blue collar population, and help them entering the workforce. So I think I lost you now.
We can hear you, Martin, clearly. At least I can. I hope everybody else can.
Okay, but because every one of you froze now on my screen, so
yes, you've come back.
So again, we play a key role, and certainly on the blue collar segment, there's a massive opportunity to help them and help them enter the workspace through skilling activities and additional guidance and support. As you know, mature worker, for instance, they sometimes do not even know where to start to look for a job. So this is our role, and yeah, big opportunity, I believe, for us to to support the greater good, you know, support people and help them.
Yeah, absolutely. The hour has gone as quickly as I thought it would. I feel like we almost need a part 2 of this discussion at some point. And I'm sorry we haven't had a chance to take more questions, but you know, I'm sure people can be in touch, and we can try and navigate some of those for you, perhaps even offline. Thank you so much to our speakers today. I mean, you guys have talked about opportunities, challenges, you know, all of the different structural challenges to the industry, changes that are happening societally, you know, all the sort of different economic factors that we're having to contend with. But overall, there is a consensus that there are moments of light for us to sort of grasp onto, to add value to the client, to be really aware about you know, what is changing for candidates, and to make sure that we are constantly in a position where when the client needs to know what's happening with the labour market and what candidates are thinking, that they know that the first call they need to make is to you guys. So thank you all for that. I will just very quickly add, as I know we're at 1 minute over, the next WEConversations will happen on the 14th of November. That is going to be around regulatory changes. We didn't touch on any of that really in any detail today. So if you want more advice and guidance and insight on some of those things to help you sharpen up your advocacy plans for 2025, do register for that. Thank you all.